Witches and wizards, welcome to Practically Magic. This is Courtney Pearl, your healer, card reader, your Celtic priestess. I am doing a bit of an impromptu podcast episode today because I was scheduled to do an interview with one of my good friends, but she turned out to be ill today, not well today, so we're going to have to reschedule. So the topic of the episode was going to be inner child healing, inner child work, and what that looks like. And I am kind of geared up for that topic today, and that is going to have to be postponed to another day. The reason I'm telling you this is because I dressed up and prepared for inner child, right? We are kind of in an inner child season. When spring arises, when summer is coming up, we are tapping into the energies of our inner child that wants to come out and play. I was taking a class today. Tiffany Magick, who was the guest that I had on my podcast for the episode on alchemy. If you didn't check it out, please go listen to that. It's fantastic and fascinating. I have been taking a few of her courses, and she's incredible. Her work in The Great Work and The Noble Art, the books that she wrote, it's really inspiring. But I was just taking her class this morning, and she's talking about the seasonal implications of coming into summer and what it means to kind of tap into that playful energy. And she was talking about how she really doesn't like or resonate with the word adulting, the way that people use it. It's really kind of a fad right now to say, I don't like adulting, or I'm so tired of adulting lately. I am guilty of using that phrase because sometimes when things just feel a little too heavy and serious, we call that adulting. And she was pointing out that actually the developmental stage of adulting means to have a voice and to have a choice. And I am just sitting with that today, just sitting with the idea that yes, we're not so much in an irresponsible, playful era where we get to just kind of go with our first instinct and leap into activities. We have to kind of think through things, take responsibility, take accountability, more so when we're an adult. But we also have so much more choice and so much more of getting to plan things out, getting to consider risks and consider what's ahead of us and then decide what we want to do. And we have a lot more choice than we think we do. So I can't wait to play with those energies a little bit with when I have my guest, who I will not reveal who she is yet, but when I have her on, you will know, and we will be talking about inner child work. But I will just suffice to say for now that those of you who are listening to this in kind of the springtime season, or if you happen to be in a springtime season of your own cycles, independent of what's going on in the atmosphere, you know that you're in that cycle because you are ready to kind of play. You're ready to kind of not let things be quite so heavy and serious and just leap into something new. Which is interesting because I am going to be using the Storyteller's Tarot today as I talk about what it is we're going to go into for today's topic. And the card that I pulled is the Page of Hearts. Very youthful type energy. And it is the helm of Hermes. I can't remember what this is called, but it has wings on it. In this deck, this is what they have associated with the Page of Hearts or Cups. In this deck, it's called the Hearts, but it's the emotional cups element. And it invites us to kind of look at what it means to be kind of flitting about in all spaces and energies and where we're at with all of that. Like Hermes likes to kind of visit the underworld. He can be on Mount Olympus. He can be in the world with humans. He's very youthful messenger type energy. And this this is associated with emotional energy. So it also makes me want to tap into what it means when we are curious about these kinds of metaphysical topics, when we start diving into it, when we look at becoming healers, or when we look at engaging with a healer, oftentimes we have these pitfalls that we can fall into. And we've all done it. We've all been there. So I want to kind of talk about these pitfalls because a lot has been coming up as we've been shifting energies, shifting into this feminine awakening that we're looking at in American politics and everything. There's a super grab of patriarchal, masculine energy. It's like this last ditch effort to hold on to anything that looks familiar to what we've had in the past few centuries or 2000 years. And what is kind of happening with the shifts, because with all of this shifting energy, a lot of people are wakening up to this other side to things, alternative healing. It's not all about logic and Western medicine. It's also an integration of the body, mind, and soul. It's about how maybe there are other realms and other timelines that exist, and we are becoming more aware of how that plays a part in our lives. And what happens when that happens, is that people are often seeking things like they're desperate for answers. They might be going through something like the dark night of the soul, a wintering energy where they're going through something really, really hard. They're going through ego death. They're losing jobs. Their marriage is ending. Really big shifts in their lives that cause chaos, destruction, upheaval. And when that's happening, you can get desperate. You can feel like, oh, I'm going to reach out to a psychic. I'm going to reach out to a medium. I'm going to reach out to a healer. I'm going to try to, figure all this out. And there can be pitfalls there. And obviously, being one of the people in this realm, I do energy and emotional healing, spiritual healing myself. I'm not here to tell you that those things don't exist or they're not real. I'm here to maybe talk about the play in when do you really know when you're talking to somebody who is there to help you or they are sitting too much in their ego. I've talked before about this story. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know this story well. I talk about how I went to an energy healing conference and was there really primarily to learn as much as possible. And when I was there, I went to some classes on crystal healing and some other modalities that are different than what I do. And some of those were incredibly powerful. I went to a drumming session. They came with a whole audience full of drums to pass out, let the audience have, and everybody was drumming together. And they talked about what that actually does to the body, to the mind, to the soul. It was powerful, but the people on stage really came with a lot of intelligence, a lot of experience, a lot of their own practice and purpose, and you could tell they were knowledgeable about the subjects. And then there were some classes I went to where it was very clear that the healer was or had fallen into that pitfall of ego. So they are walking around with their arms spread out and they're just going, I participate in ancestral healing. I call the ancestors to heal you. But they couldn't give any more information than that. They had testimonials, people who had come to share their experiences and say, I have healed through this modality. I used to be an anxious person and now I'm not. I'm healed. But there was no information being given. There was no experience being shared. There wasn't anything more than, look at how awesome I am because I'm a healer and I can heal you. And I call the ancestors in and then they heal you. And audience members are standing up and asking, well, how exactly? And what does that mean? And well, do you see the ancestors all the time? Are they here with us now? What does that look like? And there wasn't really a whole lot of answers given. And then I see a lot of people who are really great at social media. I'm not so much great at social media, although I'm building something of a following. A lot of people have called me the no bullshit witch. So just meaning that I tell it like it is, and I'm very direct and I'm very authentic, and I just show up as I am. And that doesn't necessarily condone itself to a lot of followings on social media, because sometimes people who get the most following tend to be radicalized in some way. They're speaking, very directly in a very one side of the pendulum or the other. And so it tends to be either really harsh, really can be controversial. So my following has been growing steadily, just little bit by bit, which is totally fine with me. Sometimes I get a little discouraged because I wonder, should I be more radicalized? But then I think I am who I am, and that will create the following it deserves. So it just is what it is. My point is, there's influencers and people on social media who are really, really good at selling themselves. They're really good at promotion and marketing and things like that. And I've discovered that they are charging excessive amounts of money for workshops and retreats and sessions, readings, psychic readings, mediumship readings, things that they are offering the world. Now, it's not necessarily going to help anyone to sit and piece out whether these people are frauds, whether they are not doing what they say they're going to do, or if they're charging that amount of money because they are so great at what they do. But there is a certain energy that you can tap into to understand whether or not seeking somebody, maybe because you're desperate for healing and you're desperate for answers, or wanting to become a healer yourself and wanting to engage with that world. And how do you do it authentically and show up so that you are really providing people with the right kind of service that will actually better their lives? Or if you are just in it for ego, in it for monetary gain, or whatever it might be. So I've come up with a couple of things to look for and to think about when you are either a healer or you're looking for one, in whatever modality that might be. Excessive in unaffordable pricing is a little bit of a red flag. Now, I'm not saying that not everybody should be charging what they're worth. I think people need to raise their prices because they have, become so busy, or because they have gained so much experience in their field of study that they feel that their prices need to reflect what they bring to the table. And I don't think that's wrong necessarily. But I will give you an example of somebody that I came across who was doing a retreat, and it wasn't anywhere particularly, let's say, for example, there's Stonehenge, there's Sedona, Arizona. There are locations and places where it is something of a pilgrimage for healers, because we know that it has a very particular vortex of energy that's very healing and very conducive to healing. So those places are more desirable and obviously more money to be able to go and stay in a retreat there. The location that this person chose was not any of those locations. It was a pretty generic place. Wasn't even a very touristy destination. For the most part, some people go there on vacation, but it wasn't Hawaii, is all I'm saying. Okay. So they chose a destination. They also did not choose a place that was just made for healing retreats. So it would have a yoga studio, outdoor spaces, places where you can do meditations and connections. They had booked a conference room at a Marriott. Okay. Great for a conference, maybe not so much for a retreat. And you could book rooms at this Marriott for the weekend. That was included in the price of the retreat. And they were charging something like $6,000 for a 3 or 4 day retreat per person at this location. Now, when you're looking at what you're getting out of it and what that's giving you, the energy exchange just doesn't make sense to me. So that's a red flag when I say excessive. I mean, it's just completely unattainable for the average person to be able to afford that if they were seeking healing. I think that people were doing it because they thought they were being promised things that were going to change their life. I really do believe that what people have to offer can be transformative. I think that some of the workshops and things that I provide and have done are transformative. I do believe that. I would not be saying that just to sell that to people. I believe that it will help them if they're fully committed to healing and changing some of their core beliefs and their energy into what it is they want to align themselves with. I have cultivated classes, sessions, private sessions, courses, classes, workshops, the things that I provide. I do not sell that just to be selling something. And I try to make sure that it is somewhat attainable for the price. For people to be able to afford what they're getting. A lot of people have told me I undercharge, actually, which is something that I need to work on in figuring out the right thing for that. That's kind of every healer's sticky spot is, how do I get this to the masses, to people? Because I truly believe it to be healing and wonderful, but I want it to be accessible. And then if I don't charge enough, people will not get enough out of it. Because if you offer something like that for free, they're going to do it, but they're not going to get as much out of it because they didn't invest into it. So money in and itself is an energy exchange. So I'm just going to say that. A couple of other things is, when you're looking at someone and they are either doing a card reading or they are doing a healing session with you, if they're using fear tactics, if they are making you feel ashamed of yourself or fearful about what you're doing or anything like that, that's a red flag. That might help you understand that this is not in alignment with someone who is helping me. And I'll give an example of somebody I was just talking to. They said that they had a friend who was not very religious or spiritual their whole life. And then all of a sudden, when they were a little bit older, after they got married, they decided to join a church because their husband's family was part of this church. And this church was basically telling her, the friend, like, you've done bad in your life. You've participated in sinful activities during your youth, and therefore you must repent. You must use this time that you've now joined our church to repent and repair and to, prove yourself worthy and good now that you are here. That to me, and I'm talking about a church, but that to me gives this again, shame lens to put over the way that you're viewing yourself. Whether it's a church or whether it's a healing modality or whatever it is, if they are making you believe that you are, or have been in any way bad, I'm using air quotes for those who can't see the video. If you've been bad, then that's not in alignment with a higher frequency of being able to move forward. If I was creating a church, which I would never do, but if I was creating a church, I would tell members who are coming, not only are you good, but you always were. No matter what you've done, even if you've harmed people in the past, or you've engaged with activities that have harmed yourself and your body in some way, you are a good person. You are good inside and out, and always have been worthy of love. Because I believe that is a higher frequency to come into healing shame, witnessing yourself as you truly are. So if you go to a medium, a card reader or a healer, and they are making some very vague claims, and they're very like, you will do this, do that, but it's like, it could be anybody. That's a little bit of a red flag. I will say that when I'm doing card readings with people, I make sure that they understand I am coming at it with a healing perspective. So I am not a fortune teller. I'm not here to do party tricks. And that when I intuitively read the cards, I will only be as specific as the cards will allow me to be. And I will ask more questions to the client than I will tell them things, because that is how I believe that will help them best. It empowers people more than it puts me in the seat of, this is my ego and my gift that is now healing you. And this is coming from, I did do a couple of, and will probably continue to do a couple of live TikTok card readings on my TikTok account. I had never done that before. I have only just recently been qualified to do live videos on TikTok, because you have to reach a certain point of followers or something. Anyway, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. When people are looking at card readers on TikTok, wow, they are really looking for fortune tellers. Because when I started my card reading, I was giving a generalized, this is what everyone who might be watching or tuning in would need to know, or would get some clarity on whatever situation they happen to be in. I was getting messages popping up that were like, am I going to have a baby in the next cycle? Are me and Johnny going to get back together? And I was immediately like, what? I don't know. I don't know that. And then I thought, oh, people are getting on TikTok to get that kind of information from psychics and readers. That's why they get on TikTok, and that's why they look for those people. And to me, that's kind of the equivalent of the 1-800 or 1-900 numbers that you used to call in the 90s. It used to be on infomercials at midnight or 2 a.m. And it would be like, call Madam Serena. She has all the answers for you. And she would say, you are going to have a baby, and you are going to get back together with Johnny in the next 6 months, and all of the things. Now, I may look at the cards and say, I do see reconciliation happening, but it may not be with Johnny. It may be that you need to reconcile with yourself first. And depending on what card is pulled, there might be clarity about a situation, but I don't believe it's anyone's job, intuitive reader or not, to tell you how to live your life. I've also known friends who are new at card reading, and they might have believed that that's what card reading was. And so they start reading cards and telling people how to live their life. You should get back together with your husband. You should break up with your husband. You should put your kids in a different school, whatever it is. And I feel like when the word should shows up in any form like that, it starts to create a little bit of, I'm not sure that this is exactly the job that is happening here. So I want to clarify my role when you come to me for a session. I am a priestess. Priestessing is a service. It is a service to you. It is a service to me. It is a service to Source. So I am empowering you. My whole goal in any session is for you to feel like you took the driver's seat of your own healing and your own life. I do not claim to be an authority figure on your life. And I feel like if somebody was doing that, that might be not authentic as a healer or as a medium or a reader. Even as a medium who is somebody who connects with the other side, they have tapped in and have experience in those gifts that they have cultivated over time. There is something to me a little not quite right about people who say, I have a gift that no one else has. They might have a gift, but they have a gift that they've tapped into, that they've practiced, that they've cultivated, that they have gained wisdom and experience with. But it doesn't make them any more qualified with that gift. It doesn't make them, let's say, special or born special more so than you. I believe that everybody has the potential to tap into Clara gifts and to communicate with the other side, or to communicate with their spirit guides or angels or their divine higher power, whatever that might look like to each person and their belief systems. I do believe that everybody has that. I just think that there are people like me who have devoted their lives to it and that want to help and guide and facilitate with sessions as part of their work. This is why we do charge money for what we do, because this is our passion and this is our profession. But I do feel that our job is to empower people and not to be the authority or spiritual authority over people. Because what would be the difference between that and, let's say, organized religion that has certain people, usually men, usually white men, in certain types of organized religion, which will say, I have the authority in spiritual matters to be able to tell you how to live your life the right way. I'm here to help you figure out, ask the right questions, guide and lead you using tools like divination or card reading to help us get there. Okay, so we talked about a couple of little red flags and a little bit of some general information about, what to rely on, what to look for. If you yourself are in training or in study to become a healer, to be able to give, the thing that I would suggest more than anything is, are you willing to do the work on yourself? Because if you're showing up and telling people what to do with their lives and, I forgot to mention this one little thing about card reading, because I said divination tools can be a part of the work that we do. Those take quite a bit of study. It takes quite a lot of time to practice tarot, runes, ogum, divining rods, palmistry, all these types of divination tools. It does take quite a lot of time and experience and wisdom being the knowledge and experience combined to be able to use those tools and to help people. So first you start doing it on yourself. You start pulling cards and studying and learning. You take classes from masters who have studied and learned those things. When learning the tarot, it's really kind of important to learn the symbols, the history, the hierarchy, the different types of cards, what they mean, what do they mean together, the different spreads. There is quite a lot to it. If you're learning runes, like Nordic runes, it's a complete language all in of itself. So when someone starts dabbling with it and then all of a sudden they're charging money for it, that's a huge red flag to me. If you've not spent quite a lot of time, and I know with divination and things like card reading, there isn't a certification process necessarily to be able to go, I graduated from the School of Tarot and now I am a certified tarot reader. I don't know if that's something that actually exists. I don't think it does, but not sure it should. I don't know. There's a lot of schools of thought on that. But there is sort of an ethical practice, an ethical process to be able to practice it and then offer it as a career, as something that you do. So if someone is, for example, telling you that they read cards and that they'd like to be paid for it, whether it's tips or anything, or a private session, if they are just reading the cards, they're just telling you what's on the card, and that's it, they're probably not ready to be charging money. If they haven't spent a good deal of time with each one of their decks before using them and reading with them, it takes some time to build a relationship with your decks and to kind of infuse your energy with it. Some recommend you sleep with your deck under your pillow for a while, and while you're learning it and reading it. There are lots of different things that people suggest you do, but the point is, they don't really know the deck all that well. That's not super great. And if you have someone who's reading straight from the guidebook that comes with the deck, just right there in front of you, just straight up reading from it, they probably are not ready to be doing this for a profession and taking your money for it. So I would be very stingy with the tips on that particular type of reader. So with that being said, if you are a reader and you are a healer, you do need to make sure that you are willing and capable and have been seeking healing for yourself, seeking mentors who will do the work with you. For me, I did a year at the Institute of Healing Arts. And during that year program, you have 3 levels that you go through, and you have to process and be processed at least 100 times in that year or more. And like I said, some of that, at least a third of it probably, is yourself being processed. Having emotional processing done with you so that you can uncover the layers and layers deep within you that need to be witnessed and need to be processed. And so finally, if it feels like the healer or yourself is showing up in a space where ego is taking the forefront, I am a healer and I can heal you, rather than here's how I help you to heal while you do the work. It's hard work, and the healer themselves is in a good balanced state of ego and higher self, if that makes sense. I'm thinking about this as I'm imagining myself being one of the listeners here of the podcast, listening to all this and saying, is this making sense? Does this feel like I could walk into meeting a healer or meeting a medium or meeting a card reader, meeting a mystic of any kind, and I would be able to tell? Trust your instincts. I think when you meet people, you know if they're authentic or if they're just selling you something. If they really want to help you, if they have done the work of helping themselves and healing themselves. I think that people can read energies far better than they even know that they can. So remember, you yourself, just as a human being walking the earth, you can tap into your intuition and you can trust your intuitive self to tell you whether or not the person you're engaging with feels authentic or not. Do they deserve your money? Do they deserve your time? Do they deserve your energy? Because I think you know more than you think you do. And hopefully listening to this has helped you tap into some of that to be more aware. That's what I'm hoping. I'm not sure if all of it made sense, but I suppose listening back to it later, we can find some holes in what we've discussed. But I want to encourage anybody listening, if you feel like anything you've heard today was not quite clear, it's okay if I wasn't completely clear, because sometimes I'm not. I want you to write into me on my social media accounts, write into me on my website. And I am here to announce officially that Practically Magick, the podcast, has its own podcast website to get your feedback specifically. So you can go to me at prism-healing.com, which is still there and always available. I do book sessions privately and group classes and sessions there on Prism Healing. It's a great place to connect with me. It's a great place to check out what I do. I will be revamping my prices and my sessions that are available throughout the summer. It's a great place to connect with me. I can do any of the sessions that I do over Zoom or over from anywhere. So while that is still available, I do have Magick with a CK .com is an official website. Woohoo! For Practically Magick. So thank you. Thank you to Ride the Wave Media and Just Blaine for getting that all set up for me. That has all been done for me because I am part of the most amazing podcast network on the planet, Ride the Wave Media. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Amanda McCombs at Not So Genius Mind, The Inner Workings of a Not So Genius Mind, which is my sister podcast. I say that because we are both on the same network together and we work together. And I want to thank her for all of her support and help getting my podcast going. And yeah, and thank you again to the Sunshine community for always supporting me and being my community. If you are local here in Daybreak and you would like to be part of the Sunshine community, you can also reach out to me and connect because I will get you connected with them. They are an amazing network of women supporting women in business. So I am happy to be a part of that community. And as always, go make magic out there in the real world. I will see you out there. Have a great day, witches and wizards.